I got saddled with this one because you led us here. You're the one that put me here. And you know a lot about center pivots, and some of the stuff I'm going to tell you already know, but we're going to go through it just to kind of tell us where we go, where we've been, and why did you go to center pivot? Let's get it open here. Why did you use center pivots in the first place? You tell me.
Labor.
Pardon me?
Labor.
Labor. Big labor. Why are you still using them?
No
Can't
choice.
afford drip.
Do what?
No choice and can't afford drip.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Can't afford anything else is labor, and also we save some water with pivots. As for, well, let me back up. Don McElroy, some of you know what Muse here, we thought we were saving bukus of water with center pivots, but all you did was irrigate the rate with all the water you could get, and there's nothing wrong with that. I'm not considering it. But we thought back then, that's been in the 80s, when all these pivots became available, that this is what was happening, but it wasn't. And we've made a lot of changes, and we're going to concentrate today on a lot of things. We're going to go through some pretty fast, and I think we can. This is what Steve was talking about. This is where we went first. Low elevation spray with off the impacts at 100 psi. We went to mid elevation spray, and Ferris, I copied this off your website. Now we got several in here. This is what got us here, in my opinion. My experience, the low elevation spray, we dropped down, we used the 5-degree up nozzle, and a lot of us are still using that, and it's worked real well. We did get more acres with it, but today we're going to look at maybe some other things that some people are looking at, and that's what we'll be about. And I do have, I've asked, well, let me get into that a little bit later, but Senator is here today to help us make some decisions on some of the conversions that you may want to make in the cost share project within RCS. And we're going to try to get that done and move forward with it. That one didn't turn out very good, but that's a low elevation spray. Well, a lot of us are using that, and it's pretty protective in a corn crop, isn't it? But the question is, do we want to do something else or something better? And this right here taught us a lot in the early days. We learned that water would move laterally in soil, peanut soil. It's just a frequency of application, and we could keep on 5-foot spacings, 60-inch spacings with the bubble. We could do pretty well. But one of the things in my experience, irrigation is about hourly and daily and seasonal soil water and plant relationships. Back when I converted some individual spans from high impact sprinklers to low elevation spray, I had a couple of growers that I was working with said, I don't like this. I said, why? He said, I can't see the water. You know, we used to put it above the crop, and you could see it, and you could see from the house a mile away that you were watering. Well, we can't do that anymore, can we? So that was part of what we went through. But there are a lot of things that we can do, which we're going to try to get through in the time that we have today and get you information that you want on any conversion that you want to make. How much water is available for plants in the soil? Many of you know the soil water holding capacity, that's important, the infiltration rate. And where we've come a long way is with the soil moisture sensors. We don't have to see the water in the sky anymore. We can see it or on the plant or above the plant or in the field. It's good to see it when you drive by if it's above water application. But we can use these soil moisture probes that was in the first session. We can track the water. How many of you are using a soil probe this summer? Quite a few of you. Is it telling you good information?
We can't match ET right now.
Pardon me?
We can't match ET right now.
No, but that's where we are. And that's what we're gonna address that a little bit. And there's not really many center pivots that can match ET. You're gonna have to have 8 gallons per minute per acre to match ET. Where we make it is soil storage, and I'll go through that here a little bit. We don't have enough water anymore, mostly, to match ET. We're deficit irrigating, and we have for a long time. And when we get to the irrigation capacity here, we'll go through that. But this is a way to trace it. Any of you that are using the probes are in the red on your little bubble on the website?
Getting close.
Getting close. We're in the red in a couple of places, and I'll go through that in a little bit. We won't actually show our website to you unless you want to see it, but those of you have your own. Here's some of the things that we're going to be talking about today. We can't do anything about what causes water application losses. We can't do anything about wind speed, low relative humidity, or temperature. That's beyond our control. What we have to do is try to address that. Try to respond to what's happening today out there, what the crop's seeing. We can manage, as we just saw, seepage below the root zone, and we're seeing a lot of conversion today to close drop spacings on 30 inches, and that's part of what this is about. And if you're interested in that, the reasons I hear that we're going to 30-inch drop spacings is I don't want to flip the pad from a spray to a bubble, and I watered wheat up with this bubble, this shroud bubble, and I started mentioning a while ago, Senator is outside today here with 2 examples of what they have developed for you to look at and see. Our sprinklers are not in a good position for to walk out there, and I'll go through that a little bit later. Like Steve said, I did a lot of work over the years with developing LEPA, and I'm convinced that in corn we can get 95% of the water to the crop. But we're going to have to be in the bubble mode, and we're going to have to manage it. We can manage evaporation loss by preventing mist losses, like we're going to go through some of that today, and we've kind of talked about that already. This is Charles Slabb's picture. I worked a lot with Charles, Ray's uncle, in the past. This is some of the things that I learned a long time ago. Some of you remember, and maybe some of you did go from when you were row watering. Kevin, you may not ever watered, but some of them did. Some of us did. We were able to speed up the row water about 1/3 to 25% by going to every other row irrigation. And we had a lot of discussion earlier about, well, I need to put this water over in the dry row on the next trip. That, to me, is no. You put it where the roots have gone to the water, established it and developed to where they are, you just keep putting it back where it is. And that's what we did with the first series of LEPA, low drop, low energy precision application, LEPA application, that is the quad head that was one of the first LEPA heads. And any of you used that head? It was one of the first opportunities we had to go to, it would chemigate, and it's a more expensive applicator, and reason that I've asked Senator to be here today to help us show you what those different optional pads are, like the LDN shroud that was in the previous picture. Another thing that we did is then we were trying to leave a space for rainfall, and we did that. And now that is something else that we need to go through. Here's some things that's not quite all in there, but what we learned in the 80s, we can do a lot more with less water by managing the systems. And we plowed too much, and we didn't have much crop residue, and that's some of the things that came pretty evident over the years to me. Any comments on that? Y'all kick in here whenever you want to. I'm missing you, and we'll see if we can correct it. But that's some of the things. This was probably in the early 80s, and I'm not sure there's the crop residue, and what we're gonna go through, we all know now that it's essential. If we're gonna get by with 3 gallons per minute per acre, which we're not doing right now, but we've got quite a few people nozzled at that, and some of you may be or may not, we can't do it without it. And we can't do it probably with this spray method either. What revolutionized the center pivot industry? That right there. This is what allowed us to do what we're doing today. Paris Hightower is going to talk to you this afternoon. He's the regional manager for Lindsay. And these are the people that helped get us where we are today. By making telescoping pipe links, and Joel's here with Rinky. They made all these changes. They gave us 140, 160, 180, and 200-foot span links, and they gave us the outlet spacing. And why do we need 10-inch pipe? We don't need it now like we used to, because we don't have the water. Low pressure. That allows us to go low pressure. And the design, which we'll step into a little bit here later. But this is one of the things that we can put about, in my experience, we can put 650 to 700 to a 6 5/8 east main line now on a quarter miler if that's what you want to do. Or it don't matter where the 6 5/8 is. We'll go through one example here a little bit that you'll see some of that happening as we go. But this is one of the things. The other thing, the reason I said what I did earlier, you adapted this. You got us here where we are, and when we look for someone to make this presentation, you put me here. Because I talk to people outside, and we led this industry for a good while in the center pivot conversion, the center pivot efficiency, and I think Joe and Ferris are part of that. And what they did, what you did, and the other thing on the other side of that is what? Who's the other player in this? The other player of the genetics of the seed companies. Those are the 3 people that made this go, the industry. Okay, what determines crop system irrigation capacity? Let's go through that a little bit. It's already been brought up. So that is available water in July. And we've looked at LEPA, LESA, MESA, subsurface, row water. So what determines the irrigation capacity? The nozzle package? Yeah, it's a nozzle package. Number of rows set, emitter gallons per hour or spacing. And here's what it is. Here's your seasonal irrigation capacity. And this is where we are and what's already been brought up there. If you've got 120 acre circle, nozzled at 480, you've got 1.5 inches a week. That's all you can do. At what irrigation efficiency? Application efficiency, 100. This does not cause, we'll get into what you lose a little bit later. But if you're nozzled at 480, and see, we can put on 1.5 inches a week, and we're using 3/10 of an inch a day, like somebody brought out there, we're not staying up with ET, so where are we? How long is it going to take us to use 1.5 inches at 100% application efficiency? 5 days? 5 days? 5 days. We got 2 other days. So what are you going to do with them? That's where the soil water's got to come from, or a blessing from above. That's where we're now at 4 GPM per acre. If you get to what he's talking about, if we're using 3/10 of an inch a day, well, it's going to take at least 5.5 GPM per acre at 100% application efficiency. Is that right? About that. These are in your book somewhere. For those of you in the back row that are stretching for the lower part here, I'm not sure where they are. Paul, where is Paul? Where are they in the book?
86.
You found them, Ray?
86.
Yeah, okay. They're in the book. For those of you that references. And look what I've got. We've got corn all at 3 GPM per acre, and if I stood up here 8 years ago and told you we're going to grow corn with 5 GPM per acre, you'd have told me to go home and stay there. But we've got people that done pretty good with 3 GPM per acre, putting on 1.1 inch a week with that kind of application efficiency. They're using LEPA. And they may spray a couple of times before. Okay, someone in the class asked this question in the first session. How do you know, over in the barn, how do you know how many inches you're applying? This is how you know. It's a simple formula. The GPM of your center pivot, of your drip zone, or whatever it is, times the hours that you run that zone or that acres. 450 gallons a minute is an acre, inch, an hour. It don't matter where it is, it ain't going to change. If you've got 900 GPM, Donnie, which you do on that T&L, you're pumping 2 gallons, 2 acre inches an hour. So where are you putting it? And there's an example down there like I used before. That is the formula that's going to hold true for you whatever you do. Someone in the class asked this question in the barn when Sean Carter was talking at the noon session. And there's your example. That baby's going to stay there and it ain't going away. The question is how much of it you're getting to the, how much of the water, how much of the 480 are you getting to the crop? And that's the question. This is what you're applying. That's what you're applying. So where is it going is another issue. Irrigation system capacity is the same. It don't matter what it is. It's 1.6. I use 500 there. It's irrigation capacity for any system at 100% efficiency is the same. The difference is where, like I said, where is the water going? And this becomes even less. This is one of the older slides that I had at 500 GPM. How many of you still have 500 GPM in a center pivot? A quarter mile?
More or less.
More than that. Yeah. Good. That's where you are. But see, this is what you lose. If you lose 25% of that was spray, you're losing one of those GPM. You're losing it. If you're losing 30%, we need to be down in the 6%, no more than the 12. And we can do that. Cotton is the worst. Why?
No canopy.
Yeah, no canopy. You got to get down in, way down in, get way down in that canopy if you're going to hide it. But corn seed is a blessing, especially if you're in a circle. This is the reason to go in a circle, and this is not handy sometimes. But if you, with the GPS units you guys use today, you can put that crop where you want it. And we need, one of the things that we learned that I didn't say about the previous every other row drop, we need to be on every row, one side of every row. And one of the reasons we've got, isn't that right, Ray?
I suppose it's not happening in my place.
It's not? Why?
20-inch corn.
Yeah. That's the reason one of the things that's happened, y'all hear him? 20-inch corn on 60-inch drops. You don't have anything on every row, and it's going to be a tough go. We went through that back in the 80s with some of these earlier systems. We got to be on one side of the crop plant, and that's reason a lot of them have gone to the 30-inch spacing. And we're going to get into that, I hope. We got to, because this is today. Okay, here's what we have at this. This is the picture I came up with. It's kind of crude, but we've got 4G. This is this center. We've got 30 acres, 38 acres, and the blue recently installed a subsurface drip. And they will discuss that tomorrow at 4 GPM per acre. Our tape is on 30-inch spacing. We paid $3,000 an acre for this system, the district did. And this is why I asked Steve Anderson that question a while ago. You can get the spacings. We have an option, as I say here in this, of 60-inch spacings. We can run one zone that's doubled up by another zone one at a time, and we get 60-inch spacings. And we're not doing that this year because we're trying to we're going to school. You never quit going to school. Look at me. On the left side, we got about 238 acres here, and the east sprinkler over here has the LDN UP3 bubbler with a shroud on it. No, I'm sorry, the LDN, and it's going to be exhibited out here. And the west sprinkler, the one y'all saw when we walked out to the probe, it's way around past the gym today. It was handy Monday, but you weren't here. So you can drive around there if you want to see it running, or we did get Senator here to show this. But we have the shroud on the west sprinkler that y'all saw. We have the LDN bubbler UP3 new nozzle on the east sprinkler, and we run them in the bubble mode, and that's where we are today. We run a 345 GPM project with the district, and I want to go through that a little bit with you. We work with both Ferris Hightower on FieldNet. FieldNet runs the drip. We use FieldNet controller on the drip irrigation, and I don't know if Ferris can talk about that tonight. This afternoon, he knows, I don't. And we use Pivot Track to guide us on to write the prescription and run the center pivot on the 345 project. The 345 project is just what it is: 3 gallons per minute, 4 gallons per minute, and 5 gallons per minute. We got 7 sprinklers over the area from Perryton to Sedan, New Mexico, and Curtis sitting back here, and I get to make that trip at least once a week, sometimes more often. But the way we do this, and the information we have, is the blue is the 4 GPM on Harold Graw's 2015 system. We run that through speed control to put on 1.49 inches per week in the blue. The green is the 3 GPM. We run that by speed control to put on 1.1 inches, which is 3 GPM per acre. We run the 5 in the dark blue there for 5 GPM by speed control. And I suppose that this is the second year of that project. And guess what else we're doing? We got it in drip too. We're going to get our own data about drip. We got the 345 on the drip I just talked to you about. We're going to put 1.1, 149, and 185 per week on the drip. That's the reason we have the drip. The district bought the drip. This is not going to be a hearsay. It's going to be what happened. And it's going to give you some good data about the comparison of the two. Any questions on that? We're moving pretty good here, I hope. But the way we do that, Pivot Track runs the systems. Our FieldNet will run Danny's system. We turn it over. Only thing I know, I get a text when the system goes from one sector, the 5, the 3, or the 4. I know when it goes, changes systems, and that's by tracking, which Carlisle will talk to you about today. Okay, let's go a little bit. Any questions on anything we've covered? Anything that you want to know more about the applicators? I'm going to talk a little bit about center pivot design. Donnie, I know you don't really care about center pivot design, but we do when you come to us. Well, he left, didn't he? Some of the rest of you, but we have to know, the guys of us that are working in that, what you're doing and the big thing here, we've already talked about the span leaks, we can tolerate 25 to 35 GPM difference on a quarter-mile system at low pressure. See, one of the things that happens when you go to low pressure, if you drop from 40 pound PSI to 20 pound PSI on the operating system, what have you just done? What'd you do?
Dropped your application rate.
Yeah. You changed the system. How big is your window to manage with a 40 PSI system? You drop that down to 20, you just narrowed your window, and you drop it down some more, you narrowed it some more. But you have proved that you can do that. You're the one that got us here. You see what I'm talking about? If you drop 3 PSI on a 40 PSI system, what have you dropped? If you drop 3 PSI on a 15 PSI, that's not the same thing. And so why did you go from 40 PSI to 15? Pumping cost. What else? Mist. Application loss. Get more water to the crop that you're pumping, more water that you're pumping to the crop. So, you've proven that you can do that. We designed, one of the things that I'm going to go through with you a little bit. We designed from setting an end pressure in the end of the machine. We developed this nozzle package, and I've done a lot for some of you over the years, and I went to school. I learned what it takes, and Rinky and Lindsay and Valley and T&L, they have their nozzle packages as well as anybody else. We set the pressure on the end of the machine, and we'll go through that a little bit. It's a little bit different. And one of the things that we know is when you get a center pivot nozzle package, you can't take it over to the other field, can you, Terry? No. This is for this system. If you change it up and move it around, it ain't going to work. So if you call me, want me to run a nozzle package, or one of the dealers that you're dealing with, they need to know certain parts, certain information about running this pivot re-nozzle package for you correctly. Okay, one of the things that happens, we need to know the elevation differences, and why do we need that? From the pad. If we're pushing water up like this, where's the water got to go? You got to push it up there. It's not going to crawl up there. You got to push it up there. So your pivot operating pressure, when it's uphill 20 feet, is going to be higher at the pad, right? What if it goes down 20 feet? What's going to happen? It'll go down. So, do you want to operate uphill or downhill, or both? That's the reason we need to know that. And we can do that if we have the correct information on the plus and minus differences from the pad. We're not pushing it outside the field, we're pushing it from the pad up or the pad down. And let me see, that's okay, here's another thing we do. Why is it important to have your regulators low, or your applicator low? We use gravity. We can get about 4 PSI, and this little 2.31 feet of elevation for 1 PSI is your neighbor. You can go to bed with it. Not your neighbor, but this is the rule of thumb, and you'll see that. So we capitalize on that, and I'll set 3, 4, 5 pounds in the end of the machine, and then I'll get 3 or 4, 5 more coming off the gravity. And that depends on how long your drop hoses are. But that's something we capitalize on. What else does that do? That don't give you much flexibility, does it? That's the reason the guys that are trying to give you nozzle factors are kind of nosy sometimes. They want to know a little bit more than you may have available, and we'll go through that. But that's part of what we designed for, and everybody has to. What about pressure regulators? A guy called me one time, and he said, I need to replace my 6-pound regulators with 10. Why would he want to do that?
He must have a lot of slope in his field.
At what?
He must have a lot of slope in his field.
Yeah. But will a 6-pound hold slope? He wanted to pressure up his system with 10-pound regulator because he wasn't pressured up with 6. A regulator does not pressure up a machine, it controls pressure. Most of you know that. Pressure regulator is it regulates pressure. And it takes about 2 more pounds than the regulator rating to pressure it up properly with the inlet pressure. So if you're using 10s or 20s, let's say 10s instead of 60s, you just ask for 4 more pounds of operating pressure. It's required to pressure it up. Because you need about 23 on a 20-pound, about 12 on a 10-pound, and about 8 on a 6. So obviously, being where I've been over the years, I'm very prejudiced to 6. And you see where you can, if you drop water, and you got 10-pound regulators, it's going to happen faster. See that? You can pressure up a 6-pound regulator with 8 pounds, but you can't a 10. It ain't going to happen. And when you can't pressure up your regulator, it's throttling. It's not working. How many of you went to the 10-6 packages that Senator put out when we were fumigating? Any of you? Good. We had to go to a 10-6 on the inside the span, what's called a 10-6 regulator package, to get the fumigation up on the package, up on the corn. We had to get 5 pounds, 5 feet up in the air, and so we had to do that. And there's not many of that much anymore. I guess no one in here, and I don't know if they are, but it's kind of history, but we had that to deal with over the years. Okay, a gauge of the last drop helps. Uphill, where does the gauge need to be? Downhill. At the pad or the first drop. And it would read, this is by the way, I'll just bring this out, this is the Rinky system on the center. That would be the west sprinkler with the pressure gauge low is kind of hidden and in the shroud mode. One of the reasons that some of the guys went to the shroud is we watered up wheat over here last year with the shroud and did pretty good with it. But that is one of the things that we get. And like the other slide said, typically we're at 17 pounds at the pad, and if you're on a system that's pretty level, or it could be uphill. It just depends, but that is the low pressure that we're working with. And one of the things that's happened to me is that if you're is the pointer working? Yeah. See, if you've got a main line up here somewhere, and you're down here, let's just say you're down here 4 feet. Is this pressure gauge reading what's up on the main line? No. What's it reading? It's reading where it's put. So let's just say you're 4.5 feet from the main line, and this right here is gonna be about 2 pounds less than what's on the main line. This has come up. Yeah. Ray's questioned me. Go ahead.
You're saying that would be 2 pounds less than up at the top of the main line?
Other way around. Yeah, other way around. I'm
Okay.
sorry. Other way around. He's listening to me. That's good. I can take it. Yeah. He's listening.
Ain't nap time yet.
Okay. Yeah. It's going to be 2 pounds less on the main line. Because he's 4 feet below. And above the other. Back to the, maybe I'll think of this other when we get down there. We'll get some more of this other. Why don't we put the pressure regulator up on the main line? We ever do that? Yeah, we did. The point I showed you on the slide when we get 4.5 pounds of pressure, free gravity pressure, is the reason we moved the pressure regulator down. I was working one time down in Hereford, and Mr. Coleman out here was still functioning quite well then, and we had converted a system of his, and we still had the pressure regulators up close to the gooseneck, and he called me and said, "You need to get up here." And I said, "What's wrong?" And he said, "We ballooned that drop hose. It's about 6, 8, 9 inches in diameter, and when I got here, in the first 2 spans, it was at least it ballooned out. And see, we ran so small amount of water through there that the heat is like today. That thing just swelled up, and it never did burst, thank goodness. Or I'd have been in some jam, and I probably wouldn't be here today. But that's what happened. So I called some of the people whose predecessors to equipment supply out here, and I said, "I need some higher pressure hose," which many of you know. And he said, "No, you need to move the regulator back up." And I said, "We're not going to do that. You find us some hose," and they did, and that's where you got the. You got a lot of options to hose today, and let's move on. Okay, here's something that kind of touches on what Steve was going about. Some of you are pumping 10,000 gallons a minute with 20 sprinklers, maybe. And this is what it really amounts to on the pressure, and like someone, Keith pointed out here a while ago, it's only money. You can save dollars and make a difference. Here's another rule of thumb that we've developed over the years, and I developed this from the pump testing that Amoson was talking about. He saw me come in a few times dirty, muddy, and greasy. But I'm glad we did. On a 450 to 500 foot pumping lift, total head, we use about 1 MCF per acre. That should be acre inch, not hour, I'm sorry. I got hour in there. Correct that in your slide. That's fuel per acre inch. And 70, 75 kilowatt hours per acre inch. I made a goof there. I'll fess up when I mess up. That's what my mom told me. When you mess up, fess up. I'll fess up, guys. That's 105 MCF per acre inch. It says at the top, but it's not per hour. Well, it'd be per hour if you're pumping 1 acre inch of 450 gallons a minute, it would work. The total head, we've gone through this, 6 to 650. We learned a lot of this from up in this area. And Steve, the 200 or 300 pumping levels are history up here, if they ever were. 6 to 650 take about 1.2 25 MCF, and I got a note yesterday from the people I'm following that gas, West Texas gas is 525 an MCF. Any of y'all got that news yet? You may get it, and I got it the other day, 2 days ago. I still track fuel prices. Total dynamic head back to the 2.31, 550-foot pumping level. That's the pumping level, not the static level. Plus a 16 psi discharge pressure, and that's at the well. That's where you measure that, is at the well. So when you've got a gauge at the well, then that's where you need it. It's not on top of the sprinkler. So we're kind of coming along, aren't we? I don't want to get y'all in jam so you miss lunch, because I want to eat with you. Any questions on that? That's just the rules of thumb that I developed over the years. It's going to hold pretty quick, pretty good. These average engine efficiencies on this would probably be 23 probably. Pump efficiency in the 60s. One of the things I did learn, I'll throw out there in all the tests that we did, you guys pumping over 500 feet, 450, 500 feet, over that and above, your pump efficiency needs to be 60%. You can pay for a pump repair. Ask that guy back there in that khaki shirt. Is that right?
Yep.
You can pay for it. Now let him tell you how I got him out of that jam. We worked on it. My ears are still ringing from that 454 running 2,500 RPM. On a 3 to 2, and he still was having trouble. That's some of the fun we had. Okay, let's move on. Nozzle package. This is not what you... Dang, that's Austin Segoda. Anybody know him? This is the package that we're doing here for the cost share thing. We did it, and you look over. This is how ours shows up, and this is the type of data that we need. From the go into your. Donnie's going to call his pivot man and say, "Make me a package." But see, when the guy, if he can't find it, or if he calls me, I've got to have this information. And you see in there, he's got some 10-inch in this machine. He's got some 10. That's ID. He's got some 8. He's got some 8, yeah, and some 6 3/8 in here. And he's got 900 gallons a minute, which is 2 acre inches an hour. And he's got 14 spans, and he's converting this system from close spacing to 30-inch spacing, except the first span. And here's our spacing drop between the first drop. There's a drop hose. And we learned over the years you can put about 13 gallons a minute in a 3/4 inch hose, and then you got to go to closer spacing. Here's the drop position, and from there, and there's his regulators. What if those were 10-pound regulators? Would that nozzle package be the same? No. Why? Is the nozzle going to be bigger or smaller? With 10-pound versus how much? Smaller. That's right. Because it's got more pressure on it, so it needs to be smaller to put out that water. We're going to move on. Here's the other side of what we need. And this, when you ask for a, when you get your printout back, look at this and see if this is yours. What if I sent you Joe Blow's? What if I sent Terry and Joe Donnie's package? I done messed up, didn't I? And I messed you up. I was, and Donnie's not going to know except that if he looks at it, just don't go out there and start nozzling. I did that one time. I had a half miler over here on Dale Coleman's, almost re-nozzled wet. And I looked down and I had the wrong package. Not fun. And it's getting late in the day. And I don't know, any of you know Mr. Coleman? Yeah. Was he a fun guy to work with?
No.
He knew him. He knew him. His patients were, anyway, he's a great guy. He built a lot of stuff, and he was one of my mentors. But anyway, look at this thing. See, it's an 1885-foot machine, and I've got a 6 psi design pressure in it, and I know that it's pressured up. There's my drop spacing in feet. All this. And these are things you don't worry about, but we do. And uphill, 5 feet. And we went with the 5 feet. But what I do, and what most of the guys do, that's when we need a plus, we'll run both. And we'll pressure it up until you're putting out the same amount of water uphill as you are downhill. But if he's going to do that, if your guy that's nozzling your machine going to do that, he has to know what it is. And you got GPS, you can get that. And we have a flag for ourselves. I don't know about the other guys that run these packages. We have a flag that has these little stars in it. It says, indicates the inlet pressure of a regulator may be too low for proper function. So what that tells me and tells you, if you watch that your regulator is not pressured up, and it'll flag that. And so if you see that in any of your machines, then that's what it is, and let's move on. Okay, one of the things I want to point out here is your regulator working. This is still in Donnie's machine. And for us, we're in 64s. If you're using a Nelson product, that's going to be 2 times that. It's going to be in 128. Any of you using Nelson? Okay, it's going to be in 128 instead of 164. But this is what the package says. But what I want to point out here, look right there. Is the regulator working? Divide that by 2.31 and you get somewhere around 14 pounds. The pressure is taking 14 pounds in the first, this is span 1. This is span 1, it's taking about 14 pounds out of there, and then we're pressured up because we're coming out of the regulator, the 6-pound regulator, 6 times 2.31 is 14.4. So we're pressured up. That tells us there that we're pressured up on all of the sheets. But the regulator, if you didn't have regulators on there, this pressure would be 20, well, it'd be about 15 pounds. I don't remember what the, 18 pounds, maybe 20. I'd have to look back to see. We're not going there unless somebody wants to. But that's why we do that. I want to show you something else. We moved on down in Donnie Austin's machine to span 11. So with a 5-minute uphill, look how that pressure has dropped. We put out that water. Now instead of taking out 14 pounds, we're taking out like 6. But we're still operating. We've dropped off 100ths of a pound coming out of the regulator. And here's our difference. Let me see right here, the way this works, now I know many of you are not very interested in this, but just to show you how it works, just for anything, the way this works, you see that Q design right there? That's what it says, that each one of these drops, and this is a size 2 nozzle, and that's the reason we don't have a size 2. So these drops in this span, Donnie, are 5 feet apart. This is Austin's P&L. And that's the reason they're 5 feet apart, is we can't do anything about that. They're not nozzles, or smaller than 4. So this stays 5 feet, and then we can go to different spaces, the closer spacing when we get to span 2. When you see Q design over here, that's a GPM that it's calling for, see, we've got a donut that's 30 inches wide. What this package does, you've got a donut that's 30 inches wide. Ever how many drops? 1,400 of them or something like that. Ever how many drops is in there? That's what you got. Over here, over here is Q nozzle. Over here is Q nozzle. That's what the package says. This is how close we are to this over here. The package says that we need 0.2 gallons per minute here, and over here we got 0.22 because we don't have a 3 and do not want a 0.3 nozzle. It has to go to the second nozzle, and that's the way that works. And it works good. We've been through that. Here's the variation. You're not really concerned about this unless something goes wrong, but just bring it out today, especially at the bottom. This is where the variation in the design nozzle packages I did for Austin together for this class. Span 1, the highest and the lowest is 2.9 in drop 2, and the highest is drop 3. And this design is at 3.51 GPM. He's got 256 acres in with 900 gallons a minute. And the next thing on this is that NRCS requires a coefficient of uniformity of 94. For those of you going to cost share, they require your inspection. Some of you have already submitted this nozzle package has to go with your application. Somebody's nozzle package. And on this, I have for them, there's two types of coefficient of uniformity. That's how uniform the water is going out through the system. And the difference is that vary in each span. See, there's 14 spans there, and we're close enough. Donnie, I don't think y'all going to worry about the difference between 3.68 and 3.51, are you? You got more worries than that one, by far. But this right here is a concern because you've got to show a 94% crop coefficient. For running the precipitation rate, we need speed. We need different speeds. We need a center drive, the wheel sire, and the wheel tracking. And the precipitation chart, this is what we come out with. This is what y'all use. This is what you're really interested in. What else are you interested in? This thing right here. This is your breakfast, your lunch, and your evening meal. This is what you live on. And just to show you kind of where we are with a 320 gallon a minute precipitation chart, we can put on an inch in 170 hours, and this is back to that formula that I gave you back earlier. This is that formula. It means on how we've got a 320 acre machine, 320 gallon a minute machine on 122 acres, and we can put out an inch a week, and no, it's whoever brought that up, it's not staying up. But we've got a good soil profile, and we hope we'll get some rain and go from there. Water application spacing. This is the black flat pad on the LDN bubbler. That's Nelson's product. If any of you are interested in that, that's the bubbler pad you just saw. That's it. 30 inches, spray pad, bubbler. This is Nelson's D3000 in comparison to what you just saw out there. Go ahead.
Leon, with your planting, is it if you're in the bubbler mode with corn or whatever? Do you need to be planting in a circle?
It helps you.
Or
What
does it do if you're going by?
If what?
If you're just going east and west or straight, in a straight road.
Well, it's gonna ride up some, in my experience. The drop's gonna rise up, so you wanna be out of the spray mode because the spray is gonna spray up in the air, and that's where we lose a lot of water. If I understand. That's what your question is. It just helps to have the head down in there, and if you're in the spray mode, to my experience, it sure does help. And Travis had a question here that I think is appropriate for this. There may be some situations like this one where you're using some type of bubbler and you're pleased with it. So if you're on, in my experience, if you're on one side, you got water on one side of the corn, you're okay. And his question was, why do I need to spend money? What else can I do? Well, the reason, you have to have a reason to go to the 30-inch drops. Like 20-inch corn spacing, not wanting to flip the pad. Some reason to go to the 30-inch drop. If you don't have one, then there's no need to go there. I mean, this head here, old bubbler head, is going to do what the LDN
On
ET3. Go ahead.
On the 60-inch versus 30-inch, particularly in the tighter soils, by going to a 30-inch drop rather than a 60-inch drop, the main benefit that you see out of that kind of accumulates as you go along is the fact that it usually will allow you to slow that sprinkler down some so that you can put more water in on a pass and not have to do a 5-day circle where you can do a 7-day circle. And more water in one application is always better. So if you really think about uniformity, if you're at 60-inch spacing, you're going to have pretty decent uniformity. You can cover up a lot of mistakes with 30-inch because your uniformity is in the closeness of the drops.
Good
If
point.
that makes some kind of sense.
See, you're spreading your water out. If you got a runoff problem, this is what Ferris is saying will help you fix that. You're doubling your water. You're splitting it out.
You're cutting your water flow per nozzle in half.
Yeah, that's what we showed up there earlier. Any other comments after all of this? Does that answer yours, Kevin?
Yes, it does.
And Travis? Enough? I'd encourage y'all to watch it. And the problem we're having a little bit with is getting all of this conveyed to the dealers. We've gone through all of this. Okay, we're moving on. We're kind of traveling here. Harold is done. Any other questions on the applicators that we can't cover later? We're going to have a session here with Danny's going to help me, bail me out here. I'll fess up when I mess up. We're interested in the portable mobile drip irrigation that some people are promoting. Harold has a T&L system on one of his sprinklers. It's Southwest 414, many of you may know that, where you drag drip irrigation over the in the corn. He had a problem last year with he planted straight where the hose rode up on the corn. Harold's going to be on the panel this afternoon, and so he can answer some questions on that. This year he planted in a circle. I'm not right out the pad when I made that, but you can see right here that this hose has drugged right along here, and it's wet in there. And it's drugged right along in there, and that's the way it works, and I'll show you some more a little bit later on that. Now let's go to the dragon line, and Keith Watson in here has some dragon line, and we're going to comment on that a little bit. These are two different systems. Both of them are patented. And this shows the dragon line. It's orange. And, okay, Keith, you're on. This is Keith's field. And you need a mic? Fresh, can you Danny hear him?
Yeah, I think so.
I ran into Monty Teeter at the farm show one year, and he was sharing with me how you can start pre-watering in February when the ground's really freezing, cold weather. So that's what caught my attention. I'm watering 240 acres with 500 gallon of well. But I wasn't going to drill another well, so I had to figure out some way to stretch my acres on the 500 gallons per minute. I'm on 30-inch spacing on the dragon line. You can see I've got a dragon. It's hard to see, but there's a cable that the manifold hose into. It's got the T's in it, and it's on the cable winch to where I can move those dragon lines wherever I want them. I've got a chain hook on one end and a cable winch on the other, so we just adjust the chain and then tighten the cable. I've got 60 acres of seed maize on one circle, 60 acres of cotton on the other half of that circle, and I got this 120 acre circle here. I can put 1.5 inches on the seed maize, 1 inch on the 60 acre cotton, and 3/4 of an inch in about 8 days on this. So by being able to, I feel like that the 3/4 of an inch with the dragon line is equivalent to at least 1 inch with the bubble pads. I run bubble pads on my sprinklers, have for several years, and but I've got pictures where I started pre-watering last year, and I was putting 2 inches per trip on. To me, the more water you can put on per trip, you can get a 5-foot profile with less water. So that was very important to me to be able to start pre-watering in February so I can get no circle water before the weather warms up before I can start the other. With the dragon line, I feel like you get less compaction because you're not dropping that water from 18 inches or whatever, or wherever your spray head is. The wind, you know, everybody knows what the wind's doing to, especially like a spray nozzle today, on days like today, this week. So, you know, you can go out and the dragon line, there's no mist coming off of it. The water, 3/4 of an inch, it wets a strip about 6 inches wide. So that's less evaporation. The more, I feel like the more water that you've got on top of the ground, completely across, the more evaporation. So the uniformity is, I feel like, is much better on it. This particular sprinkler here is nozzle for 500 gallons a minute. My first dragon line hose is 1 foot long, and then they go 2 feet, 3 feet. That's the reason for the uniformity, because you're not overwatering the first 2 tires. I put them on 30-inch spacing because I didn't. If I put on 60, that last hose would have been nearly 120 feet long, 500 gallons. So, plus, like Leon saying, you need a drop on each side of the trough. It leaves the surface. It doesn't melt and clog like sprays do, or some of the bubble pads, which for growing cotton, that's a plus for me because it leaves the surface a little rougher to keep it from blowing quite so bad. And you can see it. I'm putting on right here. This was one of my first passes, and I'm putting on 1 inch there. So now then, since the seed maize is starting to need water, I have to go back to 3/4 of an inch with the dragon line to get around in time to go back to the seed maize. So it's worked very good for me so far. I've got a second system to put on if I can ever get NRCS to approve it, because it's going on the book strong.
There's no cost share on this right now, that's what he's working. Any questions for Keith?
What about the overwinter? What do you do with your dragon lines overwinter?
Over winter,
Where it
the only problem I had, and I didn't realize I was gonna have it, and I don't think anybody else, I don't think Monty Keeper did either, is, we went out there, get ready to start pre-watering, and we had teeth marks in it. And I got, first I thought it was a rat or a mouse, but we got to looking, and it looks, I think it's cow teeth. Cows trying to get in there. So, with that being known, now, when we run the last trip this year, we'll put something in there with the cows.
So you just leave them even at harvest, work, you don't have to roll them up or anything?
had lots of people ask me, what happens to the hose when you reverse the sprinkler? I'm planting in a straight row, so.
I had a picture of that, but I don't know where it is. Didn't
I
include.
mean, yeah, I mean, I'm planting in a circle, still in a straight row. So I have to move the sprinkler back and forth, plant, elevate, spray, and all that, so. When the sprinklers, when the hoses are all straight, when you reverse it, all that just pulls right back around, just gets reversed the other way.
It's just like pulling a hose, it'll make a little loop there and it'll go right back. The thing you don't, it usually won't click.
If you reverse it too many times before the hoses get straightened out, every once in a while, a tire will run over the hose and it'll pull it off. But all this hose is pushed together, it's not clamped. So if it pulls hose off, it doesn't tear anything up, it just pushes the hose back on there.
Good. Keith was available for any other questions. One of the things on this, you know, the water has to be filtered. And the PDM Harold has, and this is not Keith's filter, but the water has to be filtered, and you'll see that on our drip. What about this? I won't take much time on this. But what about that? Can we fix that?
Sure.
Get you a sand separator, get you a filter system. Don't flush the water that you need to grow a crop out the end with a flush valve. We can do better than that, you know that. Imagine we're going to move on unless y'all got some questions. We have to. Soil health, soil moisture sensors, I'm going to go through them real quick because we got to move. This shows example, many of you are using those. This is our full profile over here. We've learned to believe in this and that they're good. And the Section 1 people showed us that they could do it for $2.60 an acre. That's what Tom Mower and whoever else, that guy from Idlew, Petersburg, that's what they showed you. You can afford that. And those are the kind of things we get. And this is Danny's. Danny, can you comment on that? Can you see it from back there?
Was that last year?
Yeah. Yeah, this is Danny's right here. This is his summary. He kept good water. This is the bubble thing here. I'll go ahead and I'll need him a little bit later. Here's what we got to do in managing this soil, and many of you are doing it right now. See, there's 60 inches, which we don't have the 60 inch. We're using water from 60 inches, and Max well pointed out today, you got to do that with 4 GPM per acre. You've got to do this. And this is, when you flash these on, those of you not, when I put this on, this right here, this is 4 inches, they're color coded, this is 8 inches, those of you not, 12 and so forth, that's 60. Anyway, he used the deep water, and to make it with this year's crop, we got to do that. What's happened here? That's deep percolation. I told you earlier we can manage soil without pushing it out the bottom. Those little drips right here are deep percolation. Every one of those, right there. And there's a lot of water went out the bottom. There's some of Harold's production. I'm going to go quick over this. It's in your book. Here is his, where is his? Anyway, these are different years, 4 GPM per acre, his yields, his plant populations. These averaged, where is the average? 198. He's averaged 198 bushels on 224.3 total inches of water over the last 5 years, and included that was 2011. In population, he's doing the soil thing, he's not plowing, and we're going to move on. That's another slide. Okay, here we go to conversion. Danny, you got to come forward. This is conversion where you do it yourself, and this is Danny's conversion. And we're going to go through this a little bit, where he's converting from 60-inch spacings to 30s. And this is his crew. So who's your crew?
My hard man and 2 day laborers that just were standing around needing work. And it worked for us better to have 3 people, 2 guys up in the bucket and 1 on the ground. And for us, we went ahead and well, let me back up a little bit. I had one pivot done last year, and I just had the sprinkler company do it. For some odd reason, he had 2 or 3 different guys out there, and they were either using their knee pad or their hip or somewhere, and I got nozzles up and down. NRCS came out 3 times before they finally signed off on it. So I said, well, I'm gonna try it myself. Now, we made a lot of mistakes early on, but we finally figured out that this is efficient, and these 3 guys could get this done. And so we just went ahead and cut our hoses extra long by about 1 foot or so. And we put on 2 different pivots, 1,250 drops. Even if it was 1 foot long, that's 1,250 feet of hose that's wasted. But on the other hand, to try to get these all uniform, if you're going to try to cut them and put your nozzle on as you go, we found that that wasn't going to work. It took too much time. So we just ate the extra hose. And Leon doesn't have a picture here, but my guy figured out, he went up to the lumber yard and got some real little cable. Go back, Leon. And he just tied one end onto the tower, tied the other end on the four-wheeler, and took it down to the other end and stretched it. And then he cut him some 2x4s. We were shooting for between 15 and 18 inches. This feels pretty flat. We felt like with the bubble mode, we were only going to have about 4-inch. That's another thing that the bubble mode helps you with. We felt like we were only going to have about 4-inch tracks. So we did the math to figure it out, and then he stretched this cable, and then in the center made the allowance for the drop. We dropped about 7 inches. This is the Matic sprinkler. In the middle, we dropped about 7 inches. So we made this one 7 inches taller than the 2 outside ones, and just went along there and cut it all off and installed the nozzles. It worked real good, went pretty quick, and so far NRCS just signed off on it. We didn't have to go back and redo anything. So you can do it yourself. There's some shortcuts you can take. I think in my case, on an 1,850-foot sprinkler, they charged me about $5,000 in labor. These 3 guys did that sprinkler in 2 days. And of course, I got my labor and my tractor and stuff. But NRCS is going to pay the cost share based on the drop. They don't care who does it. All they want is they want you to be about 18 inches off the ground when you're applying water. And that bugged me for a long time, how we were going to figure the drop in the sprinkler and try to get this pretty precise. But when he came up with that, just stringing that cable along there and just cutting them off and crimping the nozzles on there, it went pretty fast.
And the heads that you're looking at here are roughly 12 inches. I'm not sure where that slide is here.
I want to say one more thing. As you all know, most of you know, I'm on the board of the water district, and part of being a part of this program here, this master irrigator, Leon works for the water district. And so if any of you want some help in getting the material list figured out and getting the material ordered and doing a nozzle package, Leon is available to all of you guys if you want to utilize it. You don't have to. You can use a sprinkler dealer, but we have like Leon said, trying to get some of this stuff here to get the proper. If you're going to go to the UP3, the new style, then you have to use a new style weight. NRCS doesn't necessarily require you to put on a new weight if you want to use your old weights on your 60-inch centers, but you can't use the new UP3 basket because the weight is the basket is different and the weight is different. But Leon will help you with all of that, and, the idea here is to get as many conversions as we can for the amount of money that's available for the cost share.
And that's another reason Senator's here today, to help you figure that out. Go ahead, Ferris.
I want to make one comment on this whole drop list, the materials list. There's very types and kinds of hoses out there.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you, for the money spent and what you're going to get longevity out of the hoses, either use the Senator black hose or use the blue or red hose that is a virgin material. Do not use any of the other stuff that's out there. It is cheaper and it will not last. It has too much plastic in it, not enough poly in it, and I've got Senator hose out there on sprinklers, and you guys probably do too, that's 20 years old and it's still good. And that other stuff, if you make 5 or 6 years on some of that stuff today, you'll be really lucky.
That's one of
And
the
so
reasons
buy
Senator's
quality
here.
parts when you do this.
Don't cut your corners, because you all know what happens. Okay, we've kind of put together a list here to go with based on what Danny said. See, right here is what Senator told me the material list for the drop is, and that would be what Edwin is talking about there. It's $37.13. With the regulator, it's $27.78. Without one, there's the $7 labor cost that came off of Danny's invoice, and that's what he's talking about. He eliminated, making $44.34, and NRCS cost share is approximately, Keith, y'all bear with us. With the regulator, it's $39.09, and Danny's going to go through that with you. And without the regulator, it's $34.78, which is less than that. But that's where you are right there, and that's in your book. And here is a conversion of a 120-acre circle on the 30-inch drops, and what it amounts to is $144.56 an acre, and the material list is $44.13. So the cost share is this $172.96. $19.11 is the cost share, and then this is the installation, so forth, $21,724. That's in your list. This is just guidelines for you to go with. You want to comment on any of that, Danny?
Thank you, Doug.
When we went to Austin or Temple and talked to Salvador Salinas, the state conservationist with this project to do a master irrigator program, what we found was, especially with the soil probes, people were getting cost share, but nobody was teaching them how to use any of this technology. So we had in mind that somewhere around $20,000 per participant and 20 participants a year is where we came up with the money, and they agreed with that, and that's what they cost shared. So what we're asking each participant is to choose something around $20,000. Do a half miler, a quarter miler upgrade. You can see the amount there, and Leon will show. Do you have what a VFD costs?
It's in the book.
It's in your book there.
I didn't put the VFD in here.
What soil probes are car shared at?
Keith, have you found them?
What's that?
The cost share for VFD in the book?
Yeah, it's
What page or somewhere?
right behind the second dark blue divider in mine.
It should be in the same place.
So all of you have signed up, and some of you have already chosen what you want to spend your $20,000 on. But by the end of the day or tomorrow, what we're asking you to do is choose. Do you want to upgrade a sprinkler? Do you want to do a VFD and a couple of soil probes? Do you want to do soil probes? How do you want to spend the $20,000 that each of you will be eligible for at the end of the program? That's the main reason I'm up here, is because we need to work with NRCS, and we need to start getting this these applications completed. And at the end, I guess I would say this, if there's a little bit of money left over and somebody wants another soil probe or something, we'll work with you on them. We know you can't stay right at that 20,000, but we're asking everybody to do either like a 200 horse VFDs, like 14,000 cost share. So you can do a couple of soil probes. A quarter miler is right at the 20,000. If there's money left over, then we could do maybe a quarter mile conversion and a soil probe.
That's a quarter
Something
miler
like
on
that.
30-inch spacing. What I figured here. You see that money there is 18,000. Then the $7 for 34.23, 27.24, and NRCS cost share is at 39.09 or whatever it is 19,115. But that's with the regulator on 30-inch spacing. And there's other in there.
How often should we replace our regulator?
You want me to answer that one?
Yeah.
I'll be happy to answer that one. If you've got an orifice that's over 7 years old, take it off and throw it away. It's done. Ours we run, they're only gonna last 7 years. If you got a regulator that's 10 years old, take it off and throw it away. It's a straight piece of pipe. If it's not, it's gonna be really soon.
Depends on water quality.
Yeah.
issues.
Well, it depends on the sand.
That's the element, water
This
quality.
guy here, he probably needs to change him every year.
Well, like 20 years, so probably need to change.
Because he pumps a lot of sand. Go ahead.
You said that, the first one that you had someone do was $5,000 in labor. And you said you had your own tractor and everything, but how much did you save even with tractor and bucket?
We spent approximately 4 man days with 3 people to do an 1,840 foot sprinkler and a 1,280 foot sprinkler to do 2 sprinklers.
Yeah.
We
And
spent
what
more
time of
time
year?
than that, but once they figured out and we got up to speed and figured out how to do it, we figured about 4 man days. And we did this in April. We were intending to get it done in the winter time when we had more time, but we just didn't get around to it. The only point I want to make here, I'm not trying to cut a sprinkler dealer out of any business whatsoever. I'm just saying that if you want to try to do some of this yourself, it's not rocket science.
If you figure that out at $20 an hour average on those guys out there, and time you get everything done, that's $5,120 to do what you
How much?
did. $5,120.
And see, okay.
Well, it seems like you'd want to do it in the heat, you know, where the hose is hanging, that it would straighten out, you know, or whatever.
That's part of,
That's part of the cutting.
that's part of getting it cut, is your hose will stretch a little.
It's straight out.
But I tell you, we wanted to err, because our land is pretty flat, and we don't care if it's 15 or 14 or 13. The closer we can get to the ground without dragging the ground, we want to be down in that canopy just as quick as we can. And we did 30s because we watered chemical in and watered corn up this year on 30s.
And which one of those bubblers was in that package? The one that, right out by the door,
We used the
water.
shroud.
He is shroud.
that's the shroud that's right outside
Yes,
the door?
and
And that's what this is, shroud with a regulator.
what we found out is sort of a rule of thumb is if you've got a higher volume sprinkler and you use the regular bubbler that just shoots it kind of straight down, it's going to cut a hole in the ground. That may be good, may be bad, but Terry pointed out that maybe there's some good to that because it keeps the water from running out, you know, and it's going to
Get a rain and hose the hose, and try to catch the water there in the hose.
but
We used to do that without, remember when we took the pad off and just shot the water down out of the nozzle? Same thing.
But we like the shroud because we put 50/100s on the first pass and we came back again with 50/100s and it went completely across. And we got the chemical incorporated and got the seed sprouted. We didn't go to the spray mode. We also messed up a little bit. The way Zematic is set up, we started out and we have a drop right over the track, right over the tower. So we went ahead and put those on, Keith, because that's what the sprinkler called for. But we are not going to use, if we're not going to use the spray mode, we're probably going to turn those off. And that's another thing that this can help you with is managing the track. If you don't ever get that track real wet and like my guy says, get all that mucky stuff in the track, then you have to have water in the track to make it soup instead of mucky stuff. So if you're using the soil probe, what we found was, and it says we can shut off for 2 or 3 days, we're not afraid to shut off and come back and start up without worrying about getting stuck. So that's what we found. Other people may find, but for our soil, we went ahead and put that drop on there, and we may need to use the spray, but we did not on either one of these sprinklers. We just used the bubble mode. We stayed with the bubble mode.
Any questions?
I got a comment from learning the hard way. If you got a sprinkler that's 15 years old or more, NRCS pays for the drop from the gooseneck down. Replace the gooseneck too, because it'll get rust in it about a year later, and then you'll have to go back and replace all the goosenecks.
May not get it out either without breaking it, was my experience.
So it's a whole lot easier while you're in the business, just replace the gooseneck.
One other little thing we found out, Ferris may want to talk about this, but my guy, he wants to make sure it's tight so it doesn't fall out. And they were running the tap down each one of these to make sure, and those are actually a couple of threads.
They're actually rolled into those. You don't want to tap those things out. Just leave them alone and run your nipple back down in there. Don't ever tap one out unless you've got an issue with it. So
He was-
clean those threads.
He
How
was
about
afraid.
you, Joe? Pardon me? Are y'all slanted as well to outlets on your main lines? Like what?
No, I think we're the only ones that use a formed outlet, but irregardless of whether it's a welded on outlet or a formed outlet, don't chase those threads unless you have a need to chase those threads.
I had a need.
That slowed
Like a
us down
rubber
a little
gooseneck.
bit because he was tapping every one of them, making sure. Now, some of them, when you took the plug out, there was plastic down in the threads, and so we just ran that down about 3 rounds. Don't tap it all the way to the bottom. Just run it about 3 rounds, and that if it's got 3 threads in there, it's going to be okay.
How much did you say it cost you total to rehose that, to redo that?
Back up. It's
To the
No, I meant
off prices.
with doing it yourself.
Well, we saved the labor, and I hate to even bring this up, but I will, being you asked. We did about 1,250 outlets, and so that material cost was pretty expensive. So we found a guy that would give it to us at not full list price. And because we were doing the labor ourselves, and so he knocked some off of the list price, and we did it for about half. Now, I'm not, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying anything about a dealer, we need them. But this kind of work here, if we can do it for somewhere around half, we can do 2 sprinklers for the price of 1.
So you used about 14 rolls of hose per quarter mile.
Yeah, it's on this. He used about 13.5 feet per drop. On what he did, the way he cut them is about 13.5 feet per drop, and on the sling, it's on your, back there somewhere, it's on, in your notes. About 15.5 feet per drop on the truss rod sling that Senator has is what I figured, and we measured it.
We didn't figure enough hose to begin with.
It's like 26 rolls.
Yeah, we found out that it was gonna be,
I have it figured 29.
On that one.
Count your drops and use about 13.5, 13 feet per drop, and you should have enough hose.
we tried to hold it, we averaged about around a foot to a less than a foot. But it went so much faster once they figured out how to string that cable, and just set some 2x4s up there with a notch in them, and you just cut them off and go, and that goes pretty fast.
Any other questions? Comments?
Is everybody ready to choose, or some of you have already decided what you're gonna?
How many need to decide yet?
You put the 20,000 in on a brand new sprinkler on it.
I don't think NRCS is gonna allow that.
Well, I mean, I'd pay the difference.
I understand that, and I asked that question, but, their practice is what it is, and this is what the cost share is. Talk to Mike, and see what, y'all will work that out with your local NRCS guys.
Yeah, some of that has to be, I think this is the, that's the, no, that's without the, that's in that handout somewhere, with a new sprinkler. It's 27, it's on that sheet of paper with the NRCS cost share. What is it for, what, Chief, has you got it there in front of you?
2658.
22.58 per foot. And that's gonna be,
That's well over the 20,000.
yeah.
They won't do a half miler, just quarters.
String and a quarter miler, it won't do a half miler. But there again, talk to your NRCS guy and see if you can work something out. I do not know definitively the answer to that. I put a call in to NRCS, Keith, I didn't get an answer for sure. But do you want to comment on that?
I mean, our cost shares are what our cost shares are.
Yeah.
So whether you get, you know, if you're put in for a half or a quarter mile pivot, you're going to get, you know, a brand new one, or, you know, a certain number of drops. You're going to get a certain amount. Whether it covers your entire bill is, you know, that's not on us. Our programs are not set up to pay 100%. They are a financial assistance to be able to get these conservation practices on the ground.
Yeah.
So don't go into it expecting to get something for nothing. You're going to have to pay, you know, whatever the bill is minus our cost share. Is going to have to come out of your pocket.
And I think, is Mike going to be here this afternoon to help finalize some of the paperwork?
Right.
Because we really need to know at the end of the day, today or tomorrow, to make the paperwork trail work right with NRCS. We apologize for that. It's a new program for us, and probably next year we'll be better prepared to start the process earlier, start getting. But we thought we wanted to let people see the soil probes mainly. We didn't spend a lot of time on the VFD drives, and also talk about how the advantage of going restringing a sprinkler to 30-inch drops and doing the motor. Because initially we thought those were the things that most people that would fit in with $20,000 that most people would.
They won't hardly buy a drill. At least it's the price we pay. But we've got a good system out here. If we can help y'all in any way to figure out your decision, there's VFDs on both wells here. Right here, there's a 100 horsepower VFD. There's a 250 horsepower down at the end. And this baby runs pretty smooth with all three running. The drip's running, and y'all probably see it tomorrow. Who needs, any of you need help making the decision? Danny or I, or Ferris can help, Joe can help to make the decision on what you want to do. Is lunch here?
I'm not sure. Check on
Anything else? What did we miss? I told some of the guys in here earlier where he got here that Raymond Slough at Hereford has been after me for 42 years to try to make water wetter, and I'm still working on it, but not much progress. So we could make it. So Ray, tell him that I'm still working on it, but still don't have the prescription yet.
Probably reminds me next time I see you.
He does. Every time I'd see him, he would remind me that we need to get water wetter. But we maybe give you some ideas on how to get more from your water and how to manage it. And like we tried to say earlier, if you're doing what you want to do and don't have a reason to convert any of this, then there's no need to. You need a need.